Hello, and welcome to the Pit Pony podcast with myself, Sharon Corley,
and me, Sarah Dunwood,
in which we talk to teachers from all walks of life who exited the classroom from what they thought was a job for life and thrived on the other side of teaching. Hello, and thank you for pressing play on a little bit of a special episode of the Pit Pony podcast. Shall we call it the framer, the contextualisation of why two random northern women feel in a position to chat about life after teaching and exiting the classroom and using expressions like the Pit Pony. My name is Sharon Corley, and it gives me the greatest of pleasure to sit with my dear friend,
Sarah Dunwood.
Hello, mate.
Hello.
Hello. So, shall we take a minute to talk about this Life After Teaching Facebook group? Because we are aware there are some people listening to this who might have absolutely no idea what we're talking about because they don't do the Book of Faces. And then there are others who probably spend hours and hours and hours a day in a Facebook group called Life After Teaching. Sarah, where did it start? Where did it come from? What have we created?
So, to my recollection, we, and you know that my mind is quite hazy at times, we had discussions about the idea of getting people together and having a coffee and doing it kind of locally. And that was before a global pandemic. Yes. But the root of that came from us both having exited teaching in different ways, but crashed out of teaching and realizing that there's probably other people who were in a similar situation, and just the idea of getting together and talking, because I know for me it helped me massively when I was unpicking things with you. So the pandemic came along, and that we were locked down in March 2020. And I remember quite clearly one night in June 2020 where we just went, right, let's just do this group. And we were on Zoom. I was on Zoom in my house. You were in your house. And we just set up this group. And to my mind, at that point in time, I didn't think it was going to be anything. I just thought it was going to be a handful of our friends and associates who we just talked about our own experiences in that little closed group. More for me.
Well, it's really interesting listening to you say that, because that's the total opposite of what I envisaged it being.
Oh, really?
Really, because if you remember, during the pandemic, particularly with my business hat on, I'd gone into certain groups that were really, really powerful to support business owners who were just, the world has spun off its axis. And I was going into Facebook groups where they were doing Facebook Lives, they were interviewing people, they were adding a load of value to their key target audience, so to speak. So if you remember, I said, let's start this group. Yes, we will start off by introducing our friends, but we recorded a load of stuff beforehand to sit in the group, didn't we? We interviewed ex-teachers and people who were offering advice, and they sat within the group so that we knew people weren't coming into this empty space. So it's really interesting to hear you say that, because I thought, no, I think this could be really a great space.
I think we've got timelines, and you know me, sorry, is my neurodivergence. But when we started that group, I remember us both inviting 7 or 8 people each. And you're absolutely right. We did front load some content, but we did that after we started the group. It was in the first 4 to 6 weeks that we kind of crammed in a load of content. They're all still sat there in the group, in the about or in the featured files. They're all still sat there, different people who'd got out and who were talking about what they were doing. And actually that's interesting to me that happened 4 years ago, that we did that with what we are now planning on doing.
100%, because we wanted it to be a space. And that's the name originally, because we do get some criticism in the group. I thought this was about exiting the classroom and thriving, when in reality, what has happened, it's become a space for people who find us, many ways, in crisis. So probably what was the original vision behind the group is not quite how it's evolved in some respects, which is why we are podcasting the Pit Pony podcast, which we will talk about at a later date. But the group, and I'm not going to put a number on how many are in the group because it always dates it.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm talking about life after teaching and then I listen 6 months later, I'm normally about 20,000 members out.
Oh, I remember going to the BBC to talk with Laura Whitmore. And at that point, so that was 2 years ago, there was 66,000 in the group. And interestingly, somebody got back in touch with me recently about that and said, oh, I hope the group is growing. And I was like, you've no idea. Literally no idea.
That it's now global. There are tens upon tens of thousands of members in our Facebook group. And what it has become in many ways is a real place for people to reach out in crisis and abject crisis, real points of pain in their lives. It's a space that I've heard talked about in many ways as probably one of the most positive and well-policed Facebook groups that you can possibly be a part of, because what has had to happen over the years is that we've had to build a huge moderating team that sits behind that group. Because on average, how many pending posts do we get a week, would you say?
A week, anywhere between 500 and 1,000, depending upon the time of year, whether we're approaching a resignation. Right? Whether we've just gone past one. So there's definitely an ebb and flow, but there's anywhere between 500 and 1,000 posts a week, and anywhere up to about 20,000 comments that need moderating as well. So it is a huge task, and I would say we've got a good team of volunteers who, to be fair to them, are in and out of the moderation process pretty much constantly, and between us 24 hours a day, because we've got people overseas as well, so their time zones actually allow us to cover the group. But I think that's important, that it's volunteers and that it is a big job. And I've interestingly just had a conversation today with somebody where I've just explained that actually why we moderate in a certain way, because it's what group members don't see. That's actually the amount of stuff that doesn't get onto timelines, because we don't want our group to be overwhelmed with spam posts, with inappropriate posts, with marketing and that sort of thing. And I think we've got it right.
Yeah, we hold space for people like that who want to champion what they're doing now. We have a thread on a Friday called Flog It Friday, where people can advertise what they're doing. Because if we did allow that, then we would lose the true purpose of the group, which is for group members to get advice, to get support. What we also do, we have an anonymous feature, so people in the main can post anonymously. Now, sometimes Facebook glitches and they can't do that, but you have the option to post anonymously. However, one of the biggest aspects of our gatekeeping is keeping people anonymous, because some people will post that really identifies their school, their senior leadership teams, what they are going through. And I think off the top of my head, I can remember 5, possibly 6 members getting in touch with me who've had their comments or posts screenshot by other members of staff in their school, they've been reported to their head teacher, and they have been disciplined for bringing the school into disrepute online. Yeah. So the moderating team really does keep safe on so many levels our members. And then they'll say, why was my post declined? Because you were walking your way pretty much into a disciplinary with what you were about to post. Because I think sometimes if you sit in the comfort of your armchair at night scrolling, you forget that there's tens upon tens of thousands of people potentially reading what you are writing. So we have to police and safeguard our members from what they're posting in their hour of needs. We also are incredibly strict, and this is one of the biggest ironies, because if you knew me and you off the record, we swear like, I nearly swore to describe how we swear. We swear like troopers, but we don't allow swearing, and people get really, arsey about that. People get really...
It's actually a little bit more than that. It's bad language because it's not that we're being prudish, because you're right. You and I pepper normal conversation with swear words like it. Punctuation. We're going for the 7 pieces of punctuation in a paragraph. It's just swear words. But we know from experience, both within our own group, but also in other groups that we're both in, that as soon as something is allowed, even if it's very low level, it's almost a signal that's okay. And in the very early days of the group, we did see that kind of deterioration very quickly. And people are quite canny. They'll use very clever abbreviations and all the rest of it. But when they are spotted, they go because it's about tone, and it is, we want to keep the group. Gentle's the wrong word, but a safe, cushioned space where actually it's not, people are angry, people are upset about their own circumstances, wider circumstances, but we can have those conversations respectfully and in a measured way, and that's very much who I am, without reverting to language that we wouldn't use in front of children, even what some people consider low level language. And I think it's just important to me that it's a polite space in that regard.
I think there's something else that Belt embraces that decision. We are notified by Facebook as a huge group now that we are not breaking community, we're not violating community standards. And we have to have keyword alerts in that group because, for example, one day I put a comment on and we got a violation for it because
Can you tell me what the comment was?
Right. So what I did was, I think it was a post where we were asking people to post their furry friends, and someone put a cute post on of a dog, and I went, kidnap him. Right? Now, putting kidnap him in our group put our group at risk.
Yeah, we got a proper violation because it was you as the admin of the group.
Correct.
It absolutely jeopardised the group.
Jeopardised the group because, and it's things like when people use the comment, you've hit the nail on the head, you'd be amazed how many times the algorithm of Facebook picks up violence.
Yeah, shot. Give it a shot.
Yes.
Because it's non-contextual, because everything's done kind of automatically. Yes, humans moderate the group, but we'll get notifications of comments that have been removed that were posted 9, 10, 11 months ago. We've had one this week. And also then we can't see what the comment is. Facebook just says we've taken it down and we've no idea what it is. But yeah, we're mindful of how things can be interpreted.
And if we lost the group because of those kind of comments, we'd be losing a lifeline to so many people. So in many ways, we get a lot of criticism as admins and moderators. And I know that people talk outside of our group about, it's an echo chamber and the moderators do this. We are doing it to keep that group live. And we thought long and hard about our group rules that people have to agree to when they come in. And it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is tens upon tens of thousands of people's cup of tea. And then sitting behind that, there's a huge moderating team. And my role in the group has been something that I've been doing for years and years and years. And it's where the original Pit Pony video came from to a certain extent. And we'll talk about that another time. But I probably speak to 2 members a night who are in crisis. And I get on the phone with them and I walk them through where they're at, whether they've had a breakdown, whether they're facing an investigation, they've been suspended, they're on the brink of work-related stress. Because if anybody listening to this now in the Department for Education or in government or has got any form of influence, go and spend an hour in that group if you want to see a real insight into the mental health crisis that sits behind teaching. And I know it's an echo chamber, but that doesn't mean to say it's not happening. Because people say it's really negative, that group. I'm really happy my school isn't like that. Brilliant, good for you, pal. But go and read about the other people who are having a complete nightmare.
I don't have an issue with echo chambers. I have an issue with echo chambers if that's the only thing that you have listened to. So take it into a different context. All sorts of things on different social media platforms where people have got one fix for you and that's it, and they will not be deviated from it. I think like attracts like. So the group has pulled in, for the majority, people who are in similar circumstances, and actually sometimes people who are not, and then a couple of years later, I've seen one today that starts with, it's my turn. Yeah. This, and this has happened. And so for me, yes, it is an echo chamber of sorts, because people need to know that they're not on their own. Because when I exited, I thought I was the first person and the only person in schools that this had ever happened to. Mm. It was a real eye-opener when I realised it wasn't. And people take comfort from the fact that there are other people going through similar things to them and they can learn from their experiences. But I think what we do try and do, very much so within the group as well, is to try and avoid generalisations and to try and avoid things not being balanced. So we always will try and look for the balancing conversation if a sweeping statement is made. The it's my stock phrase, to be fair, or as a counterpoint to that. So yes, it is an echo chamber, but we do monitor that so that it's not. As an example, it's not all SLT, it's not all unions, it's not all this, it's not all that. We try and avoid that so that actually it is supportive. So no matter where on the scale you are, whether you're an ECT or whether you're a senior leader, if you're experiencing what our group members experience, then the support's there for you. And I think that's what we try really hard to do within an echo chamber.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's fair. And I think to a certain extent, we're the antidote to what goes on edgy Twitter and that kind of feel on social media. It is very much a safe and gentle space. But what goes on behind in the background, where we are having to have the spats with people who are not happy with us, people don't get to say. So I think that's a nice little insight and contextualisation for our Facebook group. And please, if you are not a member, get yourself over there, join, and spend some time in our space, because I know personally there are real friendships that are formed from that group. Now, we have this rule where we do not encourage people openly on the group threads to DM each other, because in the early days we became It's like shooting fish in a barrel. If people wanted to recruit broken teachers to their multi-level marketing businesses, or they wanted to sell their products or their life coaching, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But what I couldn't allow at the time, Sarah, if you remember, was we didn't know the credentials of particular coaches in the group. So when they were saying, DM me, I'll help, and then 3 months down the line, that person has ended up with not the right person for them, and it's caused more damage. It was life after teaching with which they were poached, for want of a better expression. So the rules that are in at the moment came from a really, really strong place of protection for our members. But however, what we do know is members have gone into the section where you can see who are members and realise that their friends are on there, old colleagues. I know that they've reconnected with people from the past with shared experiences, friendships. I'd love our first Life After Teaching marriage. I mean, now that really would be, that'd be quite a humorous one. It is a great place. And I think on behalf of everybody involved with it, it's something we're incredibly proud of. And it's something that I think we probably are one of the biggest teaching groups on Facebook. To be fair, I don't think there are many that come near to us in that respect that I can think of. And it is an absolute labour of love. And it is an honour and a privilege to sit at the helm of it with my friend. And long may it continue. Thank you, as always, for listening to our Pit Pony podcast. On behalf of Sarah, our guests, and all involved with the production, we're so grateful for your support. Please subscribe to our channels, follow us on social media, and we look forward to seeing you next time when we will have another inspirational story from a fellow Pit Pony who has exited the classroom and thrived.